Good morning, Bucknutters. It is Wednesday, December 23rd, 2015. I am Dan Rubin. This is the Bucknuts Morning 5 and change. Pleased to be joined this fine morning by Alex Gleitman from Manhattan, live before he hits the workout trail. Al, how are you this fine morning?
I'm good, Dan. Glad to be on. Appreciate it.
As you can tell, we are ripped and raring to go here. It is still dark in the Gem City, but we push on. Let's talk New York. Let's talk Jason Wint, the high school linebacker safety projection at the NFL from Brooklyn, who has earned an offer from Ohio State, Temple commit. This is right in your wheelhouse. Alex, you've been on top of this from the very start. Besides the fact that the kid's name is Jason, when it looks like they're trying to spell Jason, and I have to pronounce it Jason, and you corrected me before we went on the air, that's an issue, but we're not going to address that now. Recruiting-wise, just in your opinion, why has it taken so long for someone committed to Temple to either choose Ohio State or make the wrong decision?
Yeah, I mean, I think, Jason's a kid who, he's a very loyal kid. I mean, I know he loves Matt Rule. I know he loves Temple. So I think he wanted to do a couple things after his official visit to Ohio State. I think he wanted to do Temple right. I think he wanted to come home from his visit, take the proper time to kind of let the excitement of the visit wear off, let things soak in, and make sure he's making, the right decision. Secondly, on top of that, Jason went out to Ohio State on his own. He didn't have any family members. I know his uncle's, very involved in his life. He didn't go with him. His parents didn't go with him. His coach, Danny Lamberg, who is definitely extremely involved in this recruitment, very close with Urban Meyer and his staff from the Curtis Samuel recruitment. He didn't go with him. He couldn't afford the flight on such short notice. So Jason wanted the chance to sit down with his coach and his family and discuss everything. He told me when he got back he wouldn't be making a commitment right away. He'd probably be doing it this current week, which I'm told is still the plan. So, I think Jason just had a plan going into that visit, and he's executing on that visit. And since he's come back, he's also gotten offers from Boston College and Penn State and Rutgers. Things are heating up for Jason, but I expect this thing to end pretty soon from what I'm told.
What's your vibe at this point?
I think he's going to commit to Ohio State. I think it will be in the next couple of days. Maybe a Christmas present or holiday present for those of you who don't celebrate Christmas for Ohio State in grabbing Jason Wint. I think it's going to be a nice, I guess what you would call a sleeper pick. I know not everyone on the front row is thrilled that Ohio State's taking a player of his, I guess, star ranking. He's now a 3-star and an 84 grade on 24/7 Sports. But, I don't think Urban Meyer and his staff with guys like DeMar Hamlin, Jordan Fuller, some other guys like that on the board still, they'd be taking Jason Wint if they weren't 100% comfortable and thought that he could play at Ohio State. So I think Ohio State's going to get a really good one here in the next couple of days.
Speaking of guys that are trying to make their name at Ohio State, one of the best parts of making a bowl game and that extended break, which we all have to go on college football, methadone here, is the youngsters get a chance to practice. Some of the guys who maybe didn't get on the field as much this year as we would have liked to have seen get the chance in bowl prep to show their wares. Really, the depth chart for the spring starts to get aligned, in my opinion, during this bowl prep. Doesn't always kick in for the game, but you see guys really start to make their name for themselves. From what you're hearing from your sources, there's a few youngsters we're hearing who have shown that they're ready to take on a bigger role.
Yeah, absolutely. On the offensive side, I think everyone in the world, in the Ohio State media world, is hearing that Mike Weber looks outstanding. I think there's no question he's going to play an extremely big role in next year's offense. I'm hearing actually that, obviously Curtis Samuel, we know he looks good. He probably just doesn't get enough touches in the game to kind of follow through on that when it matters most. But I think from what I'm hearing, Curtis Samuel and Mike Weber are kind of going to split the running back duties. I expect, Curtis maybe to get something like 8 carries a game and then play the rest in the slot, and Mike Weber maybe gets, 12 carries a game, something like that. So I think it could be a pretty good Thunder and Lightning tandem next year with those two. Outside of Mike Weber on offense, I'm hearing that quarterback Joe Burrow continues to look great. He should be the backup to J.T. Barrett next year, leaping Stephen Collier as he kind of already did this year. I'm told Ohio State feels really good about the future of the quarterback position. With Joey Burrow behind center, couldn't feel more confident about the future of the Ohio State quarterback position with Burrow. And then the last guy on offense, I've been hearing really good things about, and we mentioned him in the boarding house this week, was KJ Hill. I think, from what I'm hearing, everything's starting to click for him. He's going to be really good next year, I think, and he'll probably be one of the top 3 receivers, meaning he's going to play a lot. On defense, kind of flipping over there, Robert Landers, defensive tackle. I've been hearing, some nice rave reviews about him. Denzel Ward at cornerback, I continue to hear good things there. And they actually moved Eric Glover-Williams late in the season over to safety, and he's been contributing, and that's good to hear. But another defensive back who I've been hearing really good things about ever since he came back from injury in the middle of the season and continue to hear good things about is Damon Arnett from St. Thomas Aquinas, Fort Lauderdale, kind of a late Plan B, Plan C option. They let Ed to the class last year. And I'm hearing, he's looking really good at that nickelback position behind Damon Webb. And he's a guy maybe who could surprise, especially considering Ohio State could lose 3 starters from the secondary to the NFL draft this year.
Well, that is really good news. I always love it when to me, if you're going to, and this goes against the Jocelyn Wynn thing, but to me, if you're going to roll the dice, I always like when they do it from a guy from a program like St. Thomas Aquinas. Okay, so we know what these guys are trying to do. They're not just trying to get playing time now; they're trying to get playing time for next year. That's become, as we get further and further away from the last game, you can see the front row and the people in Bucknuts kind of shifting to a look ahead in a lot of ways. And listen, that starts the conversation that's dominated the site over the last few days, which is the possible NFL exodus. And when I say possible, I should probably say probable. I don't view this as a bad thing. I've said this, I think they're more reload than rebuild. You did a great story on Bucknuts yesterday you put up. It's a slideshow kind of looking at some of the guys we'll be focused on for next year. Talk about what went into that and kind of your vision of next year as we stand here right now.
Yeah, next year is going to be interesting. I mean, right now we're hearing guys that are on the fence, like the Darren Lees, the Eli Apples. Devon Bell's not really on the fence. Tyvis Powell. We're hearing a lot of those guys are leaning toward wanting to go pro. I think they're still waiting for some NFL draft grade information that should be coming soon. When it does, that could change some people's minds. But just assuming the mass exodus does happen, this is going to be a very young team. I think I wrote in that piece, in the intro before kind of the gallery begins, I wrote about how Ohio State is going to lose, I think it was like 15 starters or something along those lines, and possibly their punter. So there's a lot of experience there to replenish, and there's a lot of guys with no experience, such as the Mike Webbers and the KJ Hills and Denzel Wards and guys like that with limited to no experience that are going to have to step in and really make a difference on this team next year. So I think going into next year, it's an Urban Meyer team. It's an Ohio State team. Talent-wise, it's still probably one of the most, if not the most talented team in the Big Ten, even if, the worst-case scenario of NFL exodus happens. That said, though, they're going to have to learn to play together, and they got some tough tests early with Bowling Green and Tulsa and down to Oklahoma on the road in the non-conference, and then they get Wisconsin and Penn State in back-to-back road Big Ten games. They have Michigan State on the road. They have Michigan at home. They have, some pretty tough games in the conference as well, and the conference moves to a 9-game slate next year. So I think, realistically, I think if you're an Ohio State fan, 9-3, I think would be a solid year. I don't think it could be upset that year with so much youth. 10-2 would be a good year, and anything better, obviously, is outstanding. But, the advantage the Buckeyes do have, again, is talent. It is coaching. I think they have the best of both in the Big Ten. And on top of that, they're going to have a veteran quarterback, a fourth-year junior in J.T. Barrett coming back. So, you never know. You put things together early enough. Even a loss at Oklahoma, you can overcome that. Maybe a loss early in the conference slate, and maybe you could still overcome that, win the Big Ten East, win the Big Ten Conference, and still go to the playoffs.
Listen, it's going to be extremely interesting year. In the positions we're in, I have to admit, I look forward to years like this just because I love to see the young players play. We get so hooked into recruiting here that I end up getting so eager to see the guys play. I'll just go on record now. I cannot believe they'll lose 3 games. I just can't believe the Herb is sitting there looking at that schedule and thinking 3 losses. Now, I will say I think you make a great point. The schedule is much more difficult than this year's schedule. Even the MAC matchup against Bowling Green is tougher, and we all know how those MAC matchups went this year. They were not fun to watch. And then the way you broke it down, I think you're probably more realistic than me. But
and remember,
yeah, go ahead.
Remember Tim Tebow, I think it was his sophomore year. I think Florida went 8-4, 9-3, lost to Michigan in Lloyd Carr's last game in that Capital One Bowl, I believe. So it's not like, Herb, and that was a young team, and then he kind of recouped and went back at it and won a championship the next year. And I could easily see that scenario where Ohio State maybe loses 2 or 3 games next year and then comes back and makes the real run in 2017.
It wouldn't surprise me. We appreciate Alex taking time out of his busy schedule. He's off to an ultimate fighting class, fight club in Manhattan. He can't talk about it. We hope he comes back less bruised. Alex, thanks for joining us. Have a great day, Bucknutters.